I am Shan Kyza L. Rebarbas, and I will be tackling the first two subtopics of Chapter 15 titled Cognitive and Metacognitive Factors in Learning. Before we begin our discussion, I will be giving you first a pre-activity called Know Me, Arrange Me, and Answer Me. For our pre-activity, I will be giving you 5 words containing jumbled letters. What I want you to do is that you will arrange the letters to create the correct words. The words that you're about to find out in this activity are connected to the lesson that we're about to tackle later. For each jumbled letter that you've arranged correctly, kindly type what are your thoughts in the chat box. Only 5 students will be accommodated for each word. Let's begin? Okay. Here are the words that are jumbled. Please type your answers in the chat box. I will be giving you 3 minutes for this activity, and after that, I will proceed to the proper discussion, okay? I'll give you some time to sort out your thoughts. Okay, time's up. I'm sure that you're done answering the pre-activity. I will be checking your answers later. Okay, thank you for participating in our pre-activity. And now, I will introduce Chapter 15 titled Cognitive and Metacognitive Factors in Learning. The intended learning outcome, or ILO, for this chapter is about analyzing research findings to explain cognitive and metacognitive factors in learning. In this part of Chapter 15, you will be able to learn about the factors of learning and the suggested strategies for students to apply to process information efficiently and effectively. Let's start with cognition and metacognition. When we say cognition, it refers to the mental processes involved in gaining knowledge and comprehension. It includes the cognitive processes such as thinking, knowing, remembering, judging, and problem solving. On the other hand, metacognition is about thinking about one's thinking. It also refers to the processes used to plan, monitor, and assess one's understanding and performance. Now, let's discuss the factors in learning related to the development of cognition and metacognition. We have 4 factors, which are intelligence, age, level of education, and use of cognitive strategies for instruction. Let's begin with intelligence. By definition, intelligence refers to the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. So how does it become a factor in learning when it comes to cognition and metacognition? There's a theory called Sternberg's hierarchic theory of intelligence made by Robert Sternberg, an American psychologist and psychometrician. This theory is about the general theory about human intelligence. It has 3 sub-theories, namely componential, experiential, and contextual sub-theories. Let's dig into sub-theories first. The componential sub-theory, which is also known as analytical intelligence, can also be referred to as being book smart. It's about having analytical skills such as abstract thinking and evaluation skills, and also problem-solving skills. Secondly, the experiential sub-theory. It is also known as the creative intelligence. It is the ability to invent new ideas and solutions when dealing with new situations. Lastly, we have the contextual intelligence, also known as practical intelligence. It is defined as being street smart. It is the ability of a person to adapt in a new environment or change it accordingly to best suit his or her personal needs. Kumbaga, you have the ability to change the circumstances happening due to your preparedness and knowledge as well. You can control the situations happening around you. Now, let's go back to the theory. These metacomponents, the metacomponents that I have discussed earlier, those are the executive processes that control other cognitive components as well as receive feedback from these components. Ang ginapasabot ani, kaya ang mga metacomponents kay mao ang responsible for making the cognitive components work their functions in learning And the meta-components also receive the feedback if nag-work ba ang mga functions sa mga cognitive processes. Kumbaga, ang meta-components kay higher ilang level compared sa ubang cognitive processes. The executive processes or the meta-components involve the planning, evaluating, and monitoring problem-solving activities. Sternberg further asserts that the ability to appropriately allocate cognitive resources such as deciding how and when a given task should be accomplished is basic to intelligence. This means that knowing what to do and how to do when it comes to learning reflects intelligence. Now, let's go to the second factor, which is age. As proposed by John Piaget, through the stages of cognitive development, the cognitive abilities for abstract thinking are higher during the formal operations period. So, this explains that as our age progresses, the more na nagkalulom ang atong knowledge as well as our thinking and doing. Based on a foreign language study determining the relationship between cognitive and metacognitive strategies, age and level of education by Kyza L in 2012, there is a moderate and positive but significant correlation between metacognitive strategies and adult learners' scores in the test of English as a foreign language or TOEFL. This means that as we grow old and as our cognitive progresses become more sharper, we know how to apply these cognitive processes through the use of metacognitive processes that assist us in determining our performance in learning. Number 3 is level of education. In the study conducted by Kyza L in 2012, there were different types of strategies according to the level of education. An example would be that college students use more strategies compared to the senior high students. In terms of comparison sa mga strategies for the level of education, we can easily differentiate because of our experiences as well, di ba? During our elementary years, ang ginabuhatan nato is maminaw kay teacher and then buhaton ta ng tasks na iyang ginahatag sa toa. Also, the learning instruction kay teacher-centered. This means that the teacher is in charge of the learning. I-appeal na lang po nato ang junior high school and senior high school students. Diba nakaagi na po ta na spoon feed sa ato sa mga teachers ang mga lessons? However, it's up to us kung saan na to pag-absorb sa lesson na ginahatag sa mga teachers. When it comes to college manggod, the learning is still facilitated by the teacher. However, since we are already college students naman, we are responsible of our own learning. So, we tend to employ more cognitive and metacognitive processes so that we can take in charge of our own performance in learning. So, this means that the learning in the tertiary level is student-centered. So, the fourth factor is the use of cognitive strategies for instruction. In order for us to improve our cognition and metacognition, we must use specific strategies. Ana pagganit na those people who have greater metacognitive abilities tends to succeed in their cognitive endeavors. Of course, we can regulate ourselves to perform better on our cognitive activities and dirian na mupasok si cognitive strategy instruction. So, the cognitive strategy instruction or CSI is an instructional approach that emphasizes the development of thinking skills and processes as a means to enhance learning. It assumes that there are identifiable cognitive strategies previously believed to be utilized by the best and brightest students, which can be taught to students. CSI is a teaching technique wherein the students are taught of procedures that will help them improve their academic performance and how they will accomplish their academic tasks. So the CSI has its common features. Number 1 is the strategy steps. Strategy steps. So you as a teacher, you must break down the problem or task into a series of steps. Number 2 is modeling. You have to use the model thinking process or the think aloud or show problem-solving steps clearly. Number 3 is self-regulation. So it is very important that the learner must have an active role in their own learning. So sila ang nag-facilitate sa ilahang learning. Igo na lang mo guys si teacher. So they can also use peer modeling component. For number 4 is a verbalization, which is also a part of self-monitoring and the talk aloud or think aloud and move to doing so mentally. Number 5 is the reflective thinking. You have to think about what the students are doing. So there are also helpful hints for using CSI. So number 1 is that you have to make strategy steps simple and easy to remember. Number 2 is work with students to develop strategy steps. Number 3 is teach them prerequisite skills. Number 4 is giving them explicit feedback. And number 5 is teach them strategy generalization. We have other factors as well. So the first one is study or practice. Of course, in a learning process, studying and practicing what you have learned is essential. Number 2 is guidance or cognitive apprenticeship. It is important for students to meet their learning needs and to address their concern regarding on what they are studying and focusing on. And the last one or the third one is the experience. As everyone would say, experience is the best teacher. Teachers should use experiences to enrich the learning of the students. As long as na gina-involve sa mga estudyante ang ilahang mga senses sa pagtuon, the more na kanang mag-involve sila sa discussion and sa lesson ni teacher. Now, let's go to the suggested strategies to help students process information. Number 1, you have to provide organized instruction. Make structure and relations of the material evident to learners through concept maps or other graphic representations. This is especially important when introducing a new topic or subject matter. So this is helpful for students to understand the presented lesson better and para dili gubot ang pagka-present sa instruction or sa lesson and topic. Number 2 is you have to use single coherent representations. It allows the learner to focus attention rather than split attention between two stimuli, as for example, the written material and the corresponding diagram. Dapat magamit ni siya para dili maglibog ang mga students sa kung asa dapat nga information ang ilahang tun-an. So number 3, you have to link the new material with what is already known. So we have to use mental scaffolding technique for the new material. So we have to connect the knowledge that we already had to learn new information. So it helps the student learn the material efficiently and effectively, and especially when you use mental scaffolding. Since the teacher has the knowledge about the new material, he or she should demonstrate his or her knowledge pertaining to the new material. Number 4 is you have to carefully analyze the attention demands of instruction. So you have to count the number of elements in instructional messages. You have to make sure that the learner will not attend to too many elements at the same time. You as a teacher should take note of this because it can make the students confused regarding on the lesson that you've taught them. Being specific and concise in delivering the lesson will help them understand the lesson more. Number 5, you have to recognize the limits of attention. Help the learners focus their attention through the techniques such as identifying the most important points to be learned in advance on studying the new material. Also, separating the essential from the non-essential. Since the students have different attention spans, you should always consider their attention spans in delivering your instruction. You have to outline the important points of a topic and remove the unnecessary details. So now let's go to number 6. You have to recognize the limitations of short-term memory. You have to apply the concept of chunking. For example, do not present 25 separate items. So you have to make them 5 groups of 5. This means that you have to deliver the new information through categorizing or classifying different concepts or topics and listed sa katungan new information. Number Number 7 is that you have to match encoding strategies with the material to be learned. Do not encourage the use of mnemonics unless it is very necessary to memorize the material. When we say encoding strategies, these are the strategies used in placing information to the long-term memory. We can use mnemonic devices which uses imagery and semantics and acronyms like, for example, memorizing the conjunctions. So, in memorizing the conjunctions, we can use the acronym FANBOYS, which pertains to the conjunctions for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. This helps the students retain the information learned for a long time. So number 8, you have to provide opportunities for both verbal and imaginal encoding. In terms of verbal encoding, show the students some stories, phrases, and words that help them stimulate their verbal encoding. For their imaginal encoding, show them pictures, sensations, and sounds. Through showing them these things, it will help them engage more with the lessons that you are teaching them. Okay, so now let's proceed to number 9. So you have to arrange a variety of practice opportunities. So the goal is to help the learner generalizing the concept, principle, or skill to be learned so that it could be applied outside of the original context of which it was taught. After learning the materials, practice should be the next thing to do. Give them practices through giving assessments, tests, questions, or activities, or even performances that help them apply what they have learned in the lesson or learning material. Number 10 is that you have to eliminate redundancy. So redundant information between text and diagram has been shown to decrease learning. So you as a teacher, you have to be specific and concise in delivering your lesson. Sabi nga nila, huwag pabalik-balik. Number 11 is that you have to help learners become self-regulated. You have to assist them in selecting and using strategies such as summarizing and questioning. In this, pwede na ito gamiton ang cognitive strategy instruction to help them increase their chances of performing better in class. And that would be all for my part. If you have any questions, you can type it down in the chat box or ask me directly after the presentation. Thank you very much for listening and participating in this class. And now, we will proceed to the second part of the presentation. Goodbye and God bless us all. Have a great day ahead.
Hi, I'm Zaira Pantalita, PS Ed, major in English, first year student. I'm the group of Shan Kyza, and my topic is implications of cognitive theories on teaching and learning. Basic characteristic of a classroom instruction based on cognitive theories. First is emphasize on the active involvement of the learning in the learning process or learn control. Second is metacognitive training or self-planning, monitoring, and revising techniques. The third is use of hierarchical analysis to identify and illustrate prerequisite relationships or cognitive task analysis procedures. The fourth is emphasize on structuring, organizing, and sequencing information to facilitate processing or outlining summaries, advanced organizers. The fifth is creation of learning environments that allow and encourage students to connections with previously learned materials. Teaching methods based on principles of cognitive learning theory. Modeling. The teacher does the task or explain the process. Coaching. The students do the task and teacher observes the students, give feedback on how to do it. Articulation. Students are asked to think out loud about how they performed the task and offers reasons for the strategies. Teachers can give feedback and determines if there are misconceptions. Reflection. Students retrospectively think of their performance in completing the task. Exploration. Teacher urge the students to identify the problem, formulate hypotheses, and seek needed information to solve it. And that's my topic about. Thank you.